computer forensics need to be someone with a knowledge about general computer skills. So I need to understand the hardware, like what kind of memory are used. Are we are using SRAM, DRAM? Do we use hard drive with SD hard drive or a normal hard drive? So he really need to understand the hardware and what kind of hardware I'm gonna do. You really need also to understand how can I take hardware out of my computers, and then I can really start to do a duplicate image of this hard drive. What if I have a problem with a storage that has a lot of hard drive here? How can I take out this hardware and start with my investigation? Because sometimes you have like a storage array where you have all the hard drives in one centralized place. So how can I do? What I should do in this case of hardware? So you need to understand hardware. You need to understand software, specifically the software that he will use to copy the data and analyze the data. So there is so many certification and there is so many tools that's really dedicated, guys, for only extracting evidence. So we mentioned before EnCase, one of the very famous FTK, one of the very famous software that it allow you to deal with hardware. It also, you need to understand different application and software running in your machine. You need to understand also operating system, and I'll explain why the operating system, because you have different file systems, file system like NTFS, if FAT32, extension 3, extension 4 in Linux. So you need to know how understand how this how this operating system are really and what kind of file system we have and how this file system are handling the data. So this is also something you really need to understand, application and all this stuff. So these guys really should be in a good position to deal with hardware, software, and also your operating system and file system. Okay, so this is the investigator. The investigator must perform a proper investigation to protect the digital evidence. Means I really need to follow a certain order. We'll talk about this order later on. How he will collect the evidence. Okay, where do I have to start? What evidence is most important? Which evidence is less important? Okay, the whole idea behind having this guide is to be protect the evidence, so later on I can analyze it and then send it to the court. So get someone who can do a proper investigation and train him. So this is another board. Another last thing here: the investigator must be certified from authorized organization. So all the software vendor that I mentioned to you guys, like FTK, EnCase, they have their own certification system. So in order to be a digital forensics investigator using EnCase software, you need to go for a certification, and this certification will examine how you are good in using the software, if you understand the operating system that you're extracting, how you analyze the data. So they have a very intense exam for each one of these softwares. So they think as a proof of his knowledge, you really need to go and do one certification here regarding one of the software vendors that he's gonna use in his investigation. So this is also important, and this is what shows you guys that certification in some times is very important. So if I have two CVs, one is certified as an EnCase investigator and one is not certified, but he wanted to be working as a digital forensics investigator, the one that he has the certification will definitely have a higher priority to be hired than the one who doesn't have, or even being called to start with. So this is another thing you should guys know. Okay, how to investigate a computer crime. So first of all, determine if an incident has occurred. And this is, guys, again, back to the first step of incident response, okay, and the SOC engineer. So all of them are really working in this area together. We really wanted to understand if an incident happened or no. So the digital forensics guy usually, okay, get this information from the SOC engineer. So the SOC engineer can really tell, okay, there is an incident happening. Once he send this data to the IR team, I mentioned the incident response team should start to also tell the digital forensics team we have an incident, let's work on it together. So he need to determine if it's a if an incident or no, and what kind of severity of this incident, so we can start the digital forensics execution for extracting the evidence. Okay, so this is the first thing to do. Find and interpret the clues left behind. So this is basically extracting evidence from operating system, extracting evidence from memory, extracting evidence from the hard drive, extracting evidence from the network connectivity. As we will see today in the lab, we will look at the network connectivity and we'll start to look at the evidence in the network connectivity, and then conduct a preliminary assessment. This is like called like basic assessment for the situation to search for evidence. So he started to the initial investigation, so he can look at the date and time, where this incident took place, which computer, which users, and then take some pictures of the crime scene. So this is basically the initial assessment for the evidence, and then later on he need to look and search and seize the computer equipment. So after the initial investigation about what happened, when it happened, okay, what users got involved with, which system being involved with, he really now have the basic pictures. This computer has been hacked, okay, and it's connected to a database. So I know that this server and this server were being hacked. Okay, can I start to search? Now, if in order to search a computer or equipment, you need to start to search and see this computer equipment. Okay, sometimes you really require something called search warrant. If it doesn't require it, you can go ahead and start to search for it and seize the computer equipment. And then you start to collect the evidence, then can be presented to the court of law later on. So this is steps we covered before already. Okay, Shani, what tools the forensics team use to recover really damaged data to retrieve some sensitive information? EnCase and FTK. This is are the really most common one. Okay, but damage hard drive. Okay, damage hard drive. If the physically damaged, you cannot recover. يعني if someone give you a hard drive and damage physically, خلاص, game over. Okay, but damage mean you have someone deleted files, you have someone hiding files. FTK easily will recover this. Okay, because I see this, they work on a burned devices. Okay, they can work, but there's the chances that they will get the data out of a burned devices is very low. Okay, if someone managed to burn his hard drive and this damage, because guys, if you have seen, I have taught this subject before. I have taught how the hard drive is made of. So okay, we have something in the hard drive. Especially, I'm not talking about the new one, the SD. I'm talking about the old one. So the old one, it consists of something called platter. Okay, and this platter is divided to sectors. Okay, and each sectors, guys, consists of basically a small area where you can save data. Okay, this is the smallest area. This is the cell area. Okay, and in order to have something read or written here, you have something called here motor, and this motor over here is connected to a small needles here. That's magnetic needles. That's really apply magnetic field to read and write from this hard. It's not touching that exactly. It's not touching the hard. Just reading from the platter the data in each sector. Okay, guys. So if you have a damage here, okay, then you will not be able to use the needle here or the heads. They called it this heads. Okay, they called it the magnetic heads. You will not be able to use the heads here to read this specific area. And that's why if you have a sector here, which is you cannot read, okay, they call this bad sector. And that is sometimes you hear that, oh, I have a bad sector on my hard drive. What we mean by bad sector, an area here where the sector here or the cluster here is damaged. So when you have your heads are trying to read or write in this area, you cannot. so you will not be able to recover any data. So if you have a burned hard drive, this sector will be damaged. Hopefully it will not, like I never see, it will be damaged. And this heads, that's magnetic heads, will not be able to read the data, okay? But again, let's say that you have burned hard drive 40%, but this area is never been touched with electricity or say the fire, and this area is clean. Now I will mark this area in my hard drive as a bad sector, so my heads will never go to this area because I mark it as a bad sector, and then I get the heads move to read the recovery area. This is if not 100% burned. If it's 100% burned, then there is game over. They will not be able. So I think what you can say that according to the area that is not touched by a fire or not physically damaged, you can always move the heads to read from this area and mark the bad area as as we said, bad sector. Okay, guys. So this is what the investigation will do. Okay, and again, the computer investigator, he need to determine if we have a crime occurred within this computer or by this computer, because the computer crime can be done for a certain computer or using this computer. So if I use this computer to send an harassment email to someone, so my computer is part of this, okay? But if I if I use my computer as for a drug dealing, okay, so the computer itself is not doing the drug dealing. I'm doing the drug dealing, but I use the computer as a tool in this computer crime. So I need to also to include to determine if the computer was a tool or was part of this crime. So this is the first early beginning. In order to really have the evidence be admissible or being recognized in the court of law, you need to keep two conditions. The authenticity means the original data where the crime took place is not modified or altered. So this is the first condition. The second thing is to maintain, exactly, you need to convince the judge. Okay, the judge will tell you, okay, where is the original evidence? Okay, you let's say, guys, you have a homicide or a killing incident. The first thing they will say, okay, where is the person who committed this crime? So they get this person. Where is the knife or where is the weapon he used for committing this crime? So if you cannot really find the weapon, or you cannot find the exactly okay, knife is saying that is here, and if you cannot find the fire knife or the gun, then you don't have enough evidence. And that's why you guys see in especially in the movies and the TV series, they always look for the crime weapon or the crime evidence. They always look for this evidence. Why? Because without evidence, I cannot convince the judge, I cannot convince the witnesses by my theory, because I couldn't find the weapon of killing or the weapon that is used in this crime. So again, the authenticity is important.